What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of your Sports Digest, the fourth installment of our college football season preview, the most anticipated, highly demanded, highest grossing box office, the SEC we are covering today. I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast already has been waiting for this due to their teams being in the SEC, and it's in the title. It's in the slogan. It just means more. And the SEC is where the big dogs go and play. And I know a lot of people are tuning in and listening to this one. So if you're tuning in for the first time, thank you very much. Follow us on all of our social medias at Your Sports Digest, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. We'll be covering stuff, posting different articles on my website at yoursportsdigest.com. We're doing a lot of different content. I made a mistake last week. First of all, ESPN, absolute disaster class. On their app, it says the games for college football start this Saturday, the 22nd. Could not have been more bamboozled by them. Didn't think it was going to start this soon anyways, but my mind was telling me no, my body was telling me yeah. So I'm ashamed to say that I messed up on that end. College football starts next Saturday, so we're really a week and a half away now from college football starting. So we're doing the SEC today, and then next week I'm going to come out with a podcast on Monday. We're going to do the top 10 group of 5 schools, including Notre Dame. So I guess the top 9 group of 5 schools / Notre Dame. And then that Friday we'll come out with a podcast talking about the games, doing predictions, and then talking about whatever else is out there in sports. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. For the SEC, the first team to talk about, obviously, over time in history, has been one of the more dominant schools over the past decade plus in the Alabama Crimson Tide. And Kalen DeBoer coming into, I believe this is year 3 for him. The expectations coming after Coach Nick Saban is one that is very high and understandably tough to follow up with. But the group of guys that Coach DeBoer has around him this year can you can start to see his brand of football really coming into shape with all the guys that he has recruited or he has brought in to be a part of this program. Last year they went 11-4. Lost in the, a quarterfinal against Indiana. They got absolutely mollywopped by Indiana, who didn't at that point, en route to their national championship. So kind of looking at over the offseason, you lose your starting quarterback in Ty Simpson, first-round pick. Jam Miller, your leading running back, is gone. Jeremy Bernard, your leading receiver, most reliable receiver, was gone. Caden Proctor, best O-lineman, got drafted. LT Overton on the D-line, important player, he's gone. You lose a couple of guys in the portal, some depth, especially at receiver. Jalen Mbakwe, we talked about him going to Georgia Tech. Isaiah Horton ends up going in conference to Texas A&M. And you start to look at this team now and filling in those pieces. You see the new quarterback situation, and it's definitely an interesting one. Ongoing quarterback battle between Austin Mack and freshman Keelan Russell. They are big on Keelan Russell. I think he has incredible upside, really good arm talent, dual threat type of quarterback. Right now, they're saying that Russell kind of has the edge in this battle. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a lot of smoke or anything around that, with Austin Mack kind of having the experience. We saw him in that Indiana game at the end of the year. He had, he had 32 pass attempts on the entire year, so he has some experience in there from last season, but Keelan Russell has a lot of talent to be able to take over that job. So it's ongoing. If Russell wins the job, it's probably the best case scenario going forward, but I don't think you can go wrong with either guy. Rest of the offense looks great. Daniel Hill is going to emerge as their number 1 back next year. He is awesome. Love him. They also got E.J. Crowell coming over from Jackson, Alabama, 5-star number 1 running back in the country, or number 1 running back in the state. So those are your 2 guys in the backfield. That's important. Guys that are returning in the skill position at wide receiver: Ryan Williams, Lasir Brooks, and they bring over Noah Rogers from NC State, who I like a lot. Get ready to see him in there and making an impact. Rico Scott, also another name to watch out for in that receiving core. Offensive line-wise, you have no returning starters on that offensive line. So you're starting one freshman in Jackson Lloyd and a couple of younger underclassmen as well. So we'll see how that kind of meshes and develops. Defensively, you're losing how many starters? You only return 4 starters defensively. Jan Zapier, unbelievable edge rusher. Think he's going to have a breakout season, if not already has broken out. And then the rest of your returning starters are in the secondary, which you feel pretty comfortable with your secondary, led by Dijon Lee, transferring over, or excuse me, not transferring over, but in his, I guess this is his second year now with the program. So getting him in there with guys who are returning starters like Xavier Brown, Bray Hubbard, Keon Sabb, household names in that secondary. And then on the defensive line, you're kind of reshaping some of those guys you brought in, like Terrence Green from Oregon is going to get a lot of snaps. Devin Tompkins from USC is expected to be one of their main guys off the end. So a lot of different opportunities, especially with younger guys. Xavier Griffin, number 1 edge rusher in the country, is coming, or defensive end in the country, is going to probably see some time on the field. Jordan Edmonds in the secondary is a 5-star DB, so you might have the chance to be able to see him. So I guess kind of the big thing about Bama is going to be, with all this youth, are they going to be able to be up for the test? Are they going to be up to the challenge in the SEC? I think so. You know, I don't see Alabama necessarily making it as far as they did last year, SEC championship, and then moving on to the quarterfinals. I don't know if that's necessarily a realistic possibility just with the youth of the quarterback, but we could also see a chance where Mack or Russell really break out and have incredible years. So I think when you look at Alabama, you look at their schedule, you can get 9 wins, and you're feeling pretty comfortable if you're Alabama to maybe sneak in at the end of the playoffs. You got tough games. You got the Georgia game, but it's at home. You're at Tennessee. In recent years, it seems like the Tennessee game on the road is always tough. At LSU is tough. A&M at home is a good game as well. And then the Iron Bowl is always the Iron Bowl. You never know what to expect there, but you're kind of looking at a couple of those games you're expecting to win. 9 wins for Alabama seems fair for Kalen DeBoer, and I don't want to say it's an improvement each year for them because the expectations are so high, but I think consistently 9 wins, 10 wins as a program under Kalen DeBoer is good enough for Bama, so pay attention for them as a potential sneak in for the college football playoffs at the back end with some really big wins down the stretch. Let's go ahead and jump into their big rival, Auburn, who has had a very important and big offseason coming off a 5-7 season where they kind of just clean house, essentially. Alec Golish in as the new head coach at Auburn, coming over from South Florida, and there's some massive turnover after a 5-7 season. You lose a bunch of guys, very important players. 5-star quarterback Deuce Knight gone, Cam Coleman gone, Eric Singleton gone, Amaris Williams gone, Kalen Lee gone, Kedrick Folk to the NFL. Like, you're losing a lot of these guys. Your quarterbacks from last year, Ashton Daniels and whoever, Jackson Arnold, both gone. So now you're looking at this upcoming season with Golish getting some of his guys in from USF and kind of retaking over that team under quarterback Byron Brown, who there's a lot of hype around him. He was really, really good at USF as a weird arm slot throwing motion that a lot of people like to criticize. I think Byram's pretty solid. I don't think he's I guess we'll just have to see how his game translates to the SEC. We saw him against Florida last year, and he was fine. Like, he was pretty solid. But again, take it with a grain of salt based on what that was last year for my Gators. But you also bring other guys. Jeremiah Kroger comes over from USF. Jonathan Eccles comes from USF. And you also clear or get some people within the SEC. Deshaun Womack, big-time get from Ole Miss. Walter Mathis, big-time get on the line from LSU. And adding that to your returning guys defensively, Xavier Atkins, linebacker, Elijah Melendez, Rayshawn Pleasant, and Caleb Harrison, safety. You have some experience starting for this team and in the SEC, as well as getting guys in who are talented at the group of 5 level and also have a lot of experience on in winning situations from other SEC teams. The biggest question for for Auburn is going to be the fact, will all of these new guys kind of mesh together? That's going to be a lot of the key for a lot of these teams we're going to talk about, but can they mesh well together? Will Byron Brown be able to translate to the next level? Jeremiah Cobb, their running back, is coming back another year. He's awesome, by the way, so pay attention to him. But I think that they are going to have a similar success to last year. Their schedule is kind of tough. They start off early against Baylor, which should be a win, but also could be a situation where you lose early on. But Golish is going to come out firing hot, I know, in his first game. But you play Florida early at home, at Tennessee, at Georgia, at Ole Miss, LSU at home, at Alabama. Those are some really tough games to play and tough games to win, not including some of the other ones they've got I didn't even mention. But I think 5 wins seems fair for Auburn with their new quarterback, their new system, and brand new head coach. But it's a new era of Auburn. I wouldn't be shocked if people come in uproar immediately due to the lack of wins, but I think it's going to be a little bit more patience with Golish here at Auburn in his first year. Jumping from one group of 5 head coach hire in the SEC to the next, the Arkansas Razorbacks made a really shocking and interesting move, hiring new head coach Ryan Silverfield from Memphis after a 2-10 season, abysmal season. A lot of people thought that Petrino was just going to stay and be the guy there at Arkansas with the experience, but they opt to go younger. They opt to go with a guy that has had some success at the Group of 5 level, never too much success as a head coach, was great as a coordinator under Mike Norvell when they made it to I think it was the Cotton Bowl against Penn State. So Silverfield now taking over at Arkansas, taking a lot of the guys over from Memphis to this Arkansas squad. They lose a lot of guys, especially their quarterback, Taylon Green, is gone. Mike Washington in the backfield is gone. Xavier Sori, defensively, really talented, gone. And you lose a bunch of other guys, just as you would in the portal. But as I just said, Silverfield brings in some guys that are important. Talk about the quarterback battle. It's between 2 guys, a returner in KJ Jackson and a transfer in AJ Hill, who is the highest rated recruit in Memphis Tiger football history, coming over now to Arkansas with Coach Silverfield. Early on, a lot of people thought that KJ Jackson was going to be the guy. Personally, knowing how much hype there was around AJ Hill in the city here, I think he's going to be the guy that ends up starting either game 1 or game 2. Nonetheless, AJ Hill will be the guy going forward for Arkansas. And they also bring their running back, who is extremely talented. I absolutely love this guy. He is a gadget, do-it-all player. Sutton Smith coming in. He's going to be the guy in the backfield alongside Braylon Russell. So you're going to have 2 of those guys that are very important as a returner and a new guy coming in. Also, in the skill position, Chris Marshall is the guy to watch out for in this wide receiver group. Transfer from Boise State. He's a lot of fun to watch. Bigger guy at 6'3", 222. So go up and get it, but also good speed on him as well. Jaden Platt returning at tight end, as well as C.J. Brown also returning at receiver. So some guys you return there. Offensive line, you bring back 2 guys, but you also get some guys in the transfer portal. Defensively, obviously this is Ryan Silverfield's, I don't want to say obviously, but this is Ryan Silverfield's kind of bread and butter is his defense. And he brings back some guys, Quincy Rhodes Jr., Bradley Shaw, guys that are returning starters for this team, important players to this team, but also into the portal gets Hunter Osborne, Lakai Rowland, DB from Maryland, Jaheim Johnson, who had chances to follow his head coach at Tulane to Florida or at LSU and opts to go to Arkansas. So that was a big get for them. So I think there's going to be an opportunity for Arkansas to be competitive compared to last year with some new guys on that line, or with some experience on that line, new guys coming in. The quarterback situation is questionable. 4 wins seems fair for Arkansas. I don't want to put too much expectations onto Ryan Silverfield in his first year, but I think they've got enough talent around them, especially young talent, that can make Arkansas fans say, okay, I can see it. Sure, Silverfield wasn't the home run hit, but give it some time and we'll see. Now we get to the part where I have the most fun. We've talked about 2 other Group of 5 head coaches getting hired. Let's talk about my group of 5 head coach getting hired. John Summerall coming to Florida. Fast forward like 30 minutes if you don't want to listen to Florida. I'm just kidding. But I am a Gator alum, lifetime Gator fan. So this is obviously a brand new era. The Billy Napier era was absolutely abysmal. Could not have been more disappointed with how that turned out, with a lot of hope at the start. But a lot of people were expecting a bigger hire. Jed Fish, Lane Kiffin, Clark Lee even coming in conference. Eli Drinkwitz, God please no. Thank God that didn't happen. But, there was a lot of high hopes for who could come in. John Summerall being the guy and leading his team in Tulane to the college football playoff last year. It was very, very different feeling than Billy Napier, obviously with the college football playoff bid and everything for Coach Summerall. But it feels great knowing that there's a head coach that's coming in here setting a standard and cares about being a head coach at this level. And you can see the excitement in him. When you're kind of looking at some of the guys that this team lost, it's okay to lose these guys. I mean, we talked about it in the Big 12 episode, last episode, DJ Lagway going over to Baylor. It just didn't work out here. I think Billy Napier had no idea what to do with anybody that had talent. So that's obviously a tough one. So DJ Lagway, I'm sure he's going to shine somewhere else. Another guy who was completely underutilized that we saw his freshman year, amazing, and Trey Wilson, Eugene Wilson III, as most would know him, but Trey Wilson to us. And he goes over to LSU to build that core. He's going to be awesome. Aiden Mizell, another guy who had a lot of speed and a lot of talent, goes to UCLA. So you lose some skill position guys. Nashawn Montgomery, another guy who is a track speed runner, going to Missouri. And then defensively, you lose Mekhi Barrow, who is one of your steady defensive linemen all year. Sharif Denson transfers in conference. Caleb Banks was a first-round pick. Jake Slaughter was an All-American center for years and years, and he's gone now too. But that's okay because I think this new era, new brand of Florida football is going to look a lot more like what we as Gator fans expect. The whole question around this is who's going to start at quarterback. It's been back and forth. Is it going to be Tramell Jones, the redshirt freshman who showed some signs last year in his minutes that he was able to get on the field, or is it going to be Aaron Philo, the transfer from Georgia Tech, coming over following his offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner, to be the guy here at Florida, knowing the system? I think right now it's leaning towards Philo. I really don't have a preference. I wouldn't even rule out Will Griffin, a freshman, coming in here and being a guy that can make noise as a starting quarterback at some point if things don't go right for either guy. So I would pay attention to that too. But Philo seems like he has the edge right now for week one. Summerall's not going to name a starter, whatever, that's fine. But this entire offense has the talent to be one of the more explosive offenses in the SEC. With Buster Faulkner being there from Georgia Tech, he brings in a former guy, Eric Singleton, who was at Auburn last year, we just talked about, but had time at Georgia Tech, has connections with Aaron Philo and Faulkner, obviously. And then you're bringing back, in my opinion, the best running back in the country in Jaden Ball. That guy is unbelievable. Might be one of my favorite Gators of all time once it's said and done. Had a chance to transfer everywhere else, including Texas. He said, no, I'm staying a Gator. VB3, Vernell Brown Jr., a legacy Gator, stays home and stays with the Gators. He's an absolute stud in the slot. Dallas Wilson, 5-star freshman last year, was banged up all year, but if you watch him in the Texas game, he's unbelievable. And there's so many different guys as well that can impact, that are young guys, especially Davion Gross, who is our number one recruit in the class as a freshman. Another legacy Gator as well that stays home and goes to Florida. So there's a lot of talent in that even in the backfield. I didn't even talk about Evan Pryor transferring from Cincinnati, who could have gone other places and been a starter, being the number one back, and he comes here and is going to be able to mesh with this offense, be a complimentary back to Jaden Ball. Offensive line-wise, it's a lot of new guys. They're very, very high on Emeka Ugorji from Stanford. They love different guys like Terrence Shannon from not UConn, Jesus. Terrence Shannon from Penn State. Harrison Moore coming over from Georgia Tech is an important guy to this offensive line as well. And I think the biggest transition you're going to be able to see for this Gators squad is going to come on defense, because it's a good mix of these young guys that had stayed at Florida, but also a bunch of these transfers that can come in and provide this experience and bridge the gap. Biggest names defensively, returners, Jaden Woods was deadly terrified he was going to leave in the portal. Thank God he came back. Miles Graham, legacy Gator, is going to man the middle at linebacker. Love him. Cormani McClain, former 5-star cornerback, kind of had this whole career shifted around with everything going on at the start. Has found his level ground and matured a lot at Florida. He's going to be the number one guy at DB this year. Mixed with some other guys, Aaron Childs coming back, Dijon Johnson. I know he just got another surgery, but if he's healthy, he can play. Bryce Thornton in the secondary. Other guys like Drake Stubbs. Who else am I missing? Jaden Robinson at linebacker. Cam Jones as an edge rusher. Brandon Bett in the middle. They've got a lot of fun guys that are returning, but also new guys. Emmanuel Oyabajo. Oyabajedo. I never know how to pronounce his name. He's got a lot of hype from Jacksonville State. They like him a lot. DJ Coleman. Watch out for DJ Coleman and Cam Dooley in that secondary, because Bryce Thornton, I like him a lot, but sometimes his looks shaky. Watch out for Coleman and Dooley to make some noise. And also watch out for true freshman KJ4, 4-star edge rusher, to kind of mix in and get some snaps here and there and maybe make an impact on that D line. So I've rambled long enough about Florida. I've talked enough about how I think they're going to end up being. They brought in all new guys pretty much, but the offense and the skill positions continue to be the same and get better from where they are. Last year, Florida wins 4 games. We're 4-8. This year, it's some tough ones at Auburn. You got Ole Miss at home. You go on the road to Missouri, at Texas. Yeesh. You got the Georgia game, obviously, and it's going to be in Atlanta this year, which is terrible, absolutely terrible. So you've got that. And then you also got Oklahoma at home, and then that deadly Florida State game at the end of the season where we just show that we own the state of Florida against Florida State. I don't want to say we own the state of Florida. Miami's pretty good right now, but we own Florida State as of late. Give me 7 wins for Florida. If you give me 6 or 7 wins, again, I'm not doing it. You are. If you give me 6 or 7 wins for Florida, I'll be happy with how the things turn around. This team has the ceiling offensively to win 9 games. And would I be shocked if I'm sitting here at the end of the season, or if I'm talking to you guys in December and Florida's got 9 wins? No, I wouldn't be shocked, but I also wouldn't be shocked if it's a 6 or 7 win team. And realistically, that's how I'm setting expectations in my head, to be better than last year and take that jump. And I think we're going to see a lot of improvements there for Florida. I unfortunately have to follow up the Florida talk with talking about one of my least favorite teams of all time in the Georgia Bulldogs, but there's no discrediting what Kirby Smart has done at Georgia, and keeping the same coordinators that he has over the past few years has been impressive too. Some turnover in this team from different positions-wise. Zachariah Branch goes to the NFL, Kobe Young, 2 wide receivers, Oscar Delp, a tight end, all to the NFL. Those are some important pieces you lose, but the good thing about this is you keep your quarterback at Gunnar Stockton. Whether you think he's a good quarterback or not, there's no doubting the experience that he has and how effective he is as a runner. And he'll take over, or he'll be able to be quarterback again this year. We'll see if he can get them over the hump. But the running back room is really, really good with Nate Frazier. He's going to be a big-time player in the SEC, even though he already has been almost 1,000-yard rusher and 6 touchdowns. But Chauncey Bowens is going to get a chance to play some more. They had Dante Dowell transfer from Kentucky. He unfortunately just got in a very, very bad ATV accident. Is going to miss pretty much the entire year, if not the entire year, unfortunately for Georgia. But the biggest question they've got right now offensively is the wide receiver position. As I mentioned, you lose a couple of those important players. You bring back a guy in London Humphreys. Taylon Taylor is coming in and going to get some snaps this year at receiver. Isaiah Canyon comes over from Georgia Tech. So you get a mixture of young and experienced guys on that in that receiving core. And I think it'll be interesting to see who emerges from that receiving core as the guy. Because it seems like outside of Zachariah Branch, Colby Young was good too, but like it seems like there hasn't been the guy for Georgia at wide receiver in a while. I know Zachariah Branch was great. He was 800-yard receiving, but there hasn't been the solidified guy. So who is going to be that guy for Georgia? And maybe that comes along with Gunnar Stockton just maybe not being the guy at quarterback as a passer. But the offensive line's great. You're returning 3 or 4 starters on the offensive line, which is extremely important. You're able to bring in some guys defensively who are very important to make up for the losses of Christian Miller, C.J. Allen, Damon Everett, Dominic Kelly, who is going to play a big part in this team, transfers to Ohio State, as we mentioned before. But they bring in Amaris Williams from Auburn. He's going to instantly slide into that D-line rotation and see fit. And then in that secondary, Gentry Williams coming over from Oklahoma will be in that DB mix alongside Ellis Robinson, DeMello Jones, and Rayshawn Dinkins at safety. But he'll also have some partners up there, Jamarly Riddle coming from East Carolina and Khalil Barnes from Clemson, who is a big-time player at safety. So you allow to have all these type of guys in the secondary with K.J. Bolden also returning, Elijah Griffin on the D-line, Raylan Wilson at linebacker, Quintavious Johnson at linebacker as well. So a lot of experience, whether at Georgia or at other schools, coming into this team. And that's not even saying that Valdon Stone is going to be, an impact player for this team as a 5-star freshman on that D-line. Caden Harris can come in and play, as well as even on the offensive side. Craig Dandridge was their 5th overall recruit. He could be something in his first year. Caden Prothrow was a 5-star tight end too. So there's a lot of different mixtures with this Georgia team. It's really just going to come down to, can Gunnar Stockton be a game changer? Because we saw Stetson Bennett be a game changer. Carson Beck at time had a chance to change the game and take over games, but can Gunnar Stockton be that game changer for Georgia? And what's going to happen with that wide receiver core? Who knows? But they're tough games in the season. Oklahoma at home is tough. I mean, I don't want to say tough, but it's a good game. At Bama's tough. At Ole Miss will be interesting. So outside of that, though, they have a pretty favorable schedule. I think this is a 10-win team for sure. I think with the talent that they have on both sides of the ball, it's a 10-win team. But we'll see how they go and how some of those wide receivers develop. But I have no doubt in Kirby Smart at Georgia with Mike Bobo leading that offense. Next team we'll quickly cover, the Kentucky Wildcats. They also make a change. Mark Stoops out after a long time with the program, and now Will Stein coming over as the offensive coordinator from Oregon. Comes and takes over this Kentucky program that was 5-7 last year. A lot of turnover. Cutter Boley, who is their quarterback, talked about him going to Arizona State. We just mentioned Dante Dowell is gone. Cameron Miller heads over to Ole Miss. Kendrick Law goes to the NFL. So they kind of have to overhaul what this entire team is constructed of. And Kenny Minchie is going to be the guy at quarterback, transfer from Notre Dame. He has a lot of hype and a lot of skill before getting to Notre Dame and before getting to Kentucky, obviously, but he really doesn't have as much experience as you would think he does. He has no career touchdowns, so we'll see how that plays out. C.J. Baxter, who I loved originally at Texas as a freshman, he's now coming over to Kentucky, so he's a big-time player. Nick Anderson comes over from LSU. Tegra Shabola on the offensive line is a big get from Ohio State. Colton Price also on that offensive line coming over from Baylor. So some new guys coming in to mix with, a Willie Rodriguez as the returning tight end on this team. A DJ Miller, 6'3" receiver. Shane Carr, 6'2" receiver. I mean, Anderson's 6'4", so you got size in that receiving core, which is very, very interesting. Offensively, it's really going to come down to Minchie. I think Baxter is going to be awesome. Seems like there's always a Kentucky running back that is just dominant, and C.J. Baxter could easily be that guy for sure. Defensively, you're bringing back more guys than you lose, which is pretty important for this team. 4 defensive returners. McQueese Humphrey Grace coming on that defensive line was a big player for them last year, along with Sam Green on the other side of him on the line. Tavian Gadsden comes back in the middle. Ty Brant in the secondary. Turbion Nichols returns as well. But then you also get some guys like Elijah Barnes, a linebacker from Texas who was a high recruit. He's important to this, or he'll be a pretty important piece of this team. Also getting Jordan Castell over from Florida. I've got my own worries about Jordan Castell when he was a Gator. Thank God he's gone is all I got to say. But I wouldn't expect too much out of Kentucky. 5 wins last year. I wouldn't be surprised if they're worse than what they were last year just because of the inexperience with this team. They've got some tough ones. They played Bama and A&M Bama and A&M in the first 2 out of 3 weeks of the college football season. And then they still play LSU and Tennessee, Florida, and then Louisville at the end of the season. I would not be shocked if Kentucky's still in the 4 or 5 win range, and that's okay for Will Stein as he kind of develops this program. But he was a really good offensive coordinator at Oregon with all the talent that he had, so wouldn't be surprised if he makes some noise in the SEC in his first year. And now it's time for the talk of the town. The fighting Lane Kiffins, the LSU Tigers. What an offseason it has been surrounding the program at LSU, surrounding Lane Kiffin. I won't dive into all of that. I'm sure we'll have plenty of time, especially leading up to that Ole Miss LSU game, to talk about the Lane Kiffin saga. But we got to talk about the team that they've got in front of us. Obviously, the Brian Kelly experience was horrible. 7-6 last year, coming short after a good start against Clemson. Feel like an important win. You lose the game at Ole Miss, and then after that, losing at Vandy, A&M, Alabama, and then Oklahoma at the end of the year. You lose your bowl game. It doesn't really matter at that point. But Lane Kiffin now comes in controversially and is now head coach at this university. We talked about some of the guys that are gone already, but they lose their quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier. Defensively, they lose Harold Perkins, who is unbelievable. His freshman year was a breakout player. Mansour Delane first-round pick to the Chiefs in that secondary. So you're kind of getting some new guys while also keeping some core players. The main guy to talk about, Sam Leavitt, coming over from Arizona State, season-ending injury last year for the Sun Devils. How is he going to translate to the SEC? Is he going to be the guy? We saw him against Texas in the college football playoff a few years back when he was the quarterback at Arizona State, and he looked solid. But coming off the injury, and just there's questions about his size, body-wise, 216 pounds. Is he going to be able to hold up? Because I don't know. I don't know. I'm very back and forth on Leavitt. I liked him before, but he's very injury-prone and has the tendency to be careless, I guess you want to say. So there's questions there, but I think he's still going to be very good. I think he was the top portal quarterback for a reason. So I wouldn't be too worried about him. In the backfield, Harlan Berry, Caden Durham, both returning as running backs. Questions about them, they're also a little undersized, both under 6 feet. So some questions about that as well. But the skill position players are not too much of a worry, especially when you talk about this wide receiver core that they've been able to bring in. Jace Brown, transfer from K-State, is super, super highly touted, coming over from the Big 12. Jackson Harris from Hawaii, who was very highly touted. Talked about Trey Wilson coming over from Florida. Winston Watkins was a very fun player for Ole Miss last year. He comes over and follows his head coach. And returning tight end Tradez Green, 6'7", 237 pounds at tight end, and he's a pass catcher. He's not a blocker. He's a pass catcher. So offensively, you're getting all of that. Offensive line-wise, 2 returning starters, but the big 2 being Aluba coming over. I think was he in Nebraska? He's coming over to be on the offensive line. But the biggest one, former number 1 offensive lineman in the country, 5-star Jordan Seaton, joins the program. Massive NIL deal for him, and he will reshape this entire LSU offensive line, which is going to be very, very fun to watch this year. Defensively, he brings some of his guys over, but he also brings back a lot, talking about Lane Kiffin, brings some of his guys over, but also brings back some very interesting guys as well. Dominic McKinley on the D-line, Whit Weeks, who we all know about dating Lane Kiffin's daughter, is at linebacker. DJ Pickett, who has been in the news lately for Jaden Daniels BS. PJ Woodland and Tamarcus Cooley in that secondary as well. And then they bring in guys. Princewell Umamielen comes in on the D-line from Ole Miss. TJ Daugherty as a linebacker coming from Ole Miss as well. And then they bring Ty Benefield in as a safety from Boise, who, I mean, I was hopeful that he would come to Florida, ends up going to LSU, and he's a very important guy to this team as well. So you kind of look at all these guys that they've been able to bring back and, bring in, you mesh them together. Will Lane Kiffin be able to coach at this level again still? He did it at Ole Miss. Can he do it at LSU with even more pressure? That's not even including I skipped out on all the freshmen they brought in. Lamar Brown on the defensive line is the number 1 D lineman in the country. Richard Anderson I think he's the number 3 defensive lineman in the entire country that is coming into this program as a true freshman. So for LSU, it's going to be the question of, can all of these guys mesh and gel together under a new head coach? I know it's simple to say. I know it's, I guess it's cliche thinking, but there's a real question about, will egos get in front of each other? I don't think for some of them, I don't see that being an issue, but I can see some people having an issue with that on the team. And Lane Kiffin's always questionable as a head coach. You look at their schedule this year. Clemson's the first game we talked about previously. They're at Ole Miss week 3. That is going to be hell on earth. I hope I can be there. Then they've got A&M in a rivalry game. At Auburn isn't just some step-over game at that point of the season. Then you got Bama and Texas back-to-back weeks following a game at Tennessee. So you got some tough games and some very losable games for this LSU squad. 7-6 last year. 9 wins seems fair for them this year, but the expectations are even higher for them. Playoff bound, this could be a team that sneaks in at the end of the playoffs. It's really going to depend on how Leavitt translates to the SEC and if these guys can all be able to mesh together, like I said. Also, shout out Trenton Henderson coming over from Pensacola. Shout out the guy from Catholic. Tigers end up winning 9 this year. Jumping from Lane Kiffin, let's talk about one of his former coordinators in Jeff Lebby, leading Mississippi State. Some improvement that has been needed to make for this program and this team. They get a lot of guys back. They lose some guys, important guys, to the transfer portal. A couple guys go to Bama. Tony Mitchell goes to the rival in Ole Miss. Brendan Thompson goes to the NFL. He's awesome. Awesome, by the way. But the most important part for Mississippi State, they're bringing back their 2 big guys. Kamario Taylor at quarterback is going to be a sophomore this year. Has a lot of talent, 6'4", 230. Dual threat guy, really, really talented, untapped potential. And Fluff Bothwell coming into his 2nd year with the program after having a really good freshman year with South Alabama. Those are the guys you're bringing in the backfield. And your number 1 receiver this year is Anthony Evans III, who was amazing for this team last year in almost 900 yards receiving. Probably going to be a 1,000-yard receiver this year. But around that, they're able to get a guy like Marquise Johnson coming over from Missouri that can be a very, very important person to this team. Aiden Williams is coming back as he's a returning guy for this team as well. So you got some talent in the receiving core, and obviously all eyes are going to be on Kamario Taylor, see if he is going to live up to the hype in his 2nd year or not. Defensively, Zach Arnett is back. Did not go well as head coach at Mississippi State. Takes some years off away from the program after that firing, but was obviously incredibly important to this program under Mike Leach, rest in peace. And he's gotten these guys back in shape and kind of feeling like, Mississippi State football again is what the players say. Will Whitson coming back on that defensive line, important guy. Isaac Smith kind of playing that star safety linebacker hybrid kind of guy. And Kelly Jones is the number 1 DB coming back for this team. That also doesn't, miss the guys Travion Williams, Zachary Tillman also coming back on the defense. And then they go into the portal and they get Amari Williams from Florida State on the defensive line, who is going to be the number one edge rusher, pass rusher for this team. Dalen Evans on the D-line in the middle is going to be important. Jordan Gilbert comes over from LSU, I think he was a 4-star prospect coming over. And that's not including their number one prospect in this class, the 4-star safety, Braylon Womack, who might see the field this year in some spurts because all of the safeties available are all seniors, so maybe get some snaps for him to be able to get the experience on the field. The Mississippi State team is really hard to judge. 5-8 was the record last year. Their schedule early on looks solid. Then you hit a stretch of Bama, LSU, Oklahoma, Texas, which is rough. This team was so close to winning a lot of games last year, including especially that Tennessee game last year. They blew it late. The Florida game last year, they blew it late. So this team is very prone to blowing games late. So is their identity this year going to be different? 5 wins last year. I can see them winning 5 again this year, or maybe even 7. They've just got a really rough stretch, and I think the first 4 games of the season are going to determine how they walk into that Bama game and then at LSU the next week, and see what kind of tone they can set for the new era. I don't want to say new era, but year 2 of Kamario Taylor and him being the guy at Mississippi State. So 5 wins, maybe 6 wins for the Bulldogs in Jeff Lebby's 3rd year at Mississippi State. If you follow my TikTok, if you don't, at Your Sports Digest on TikTok, go for it. We did an instant reaction to the AP poll being released yesterday, and Missouri sneaks in at 25, and a lot of people questioning why Missouri is in here, and me included. I was very confused to see their logo on the graphic, but I guess that speaks a lot and speaks volumes to Eli Drinkowitz. And I guess this is year 8 now for him after being the App State head coach. They lose some very, very important guys, including their quarterback last year, Bo Pribula, goes over to UVA, as I mentioned in the ACC breakdown. We just talked about Marquise Johnson going to the Bulldogs. They lose Damon Wilson to Miami. Marvin Burks goes over to Wisconsin. And then Kevin Coleman, Zion Young, Josiah Trotter all go to the draft. But Eli goes into the portal and says, you think we need a quarterback? We'll get a quarterback. Austin Simmons, former Ole Miss starting quarterback, is now going to be the guy for the Tigers this year of Missouri. And Austin had a lot of promise going into the year last year for Ole Miss and high hopes for how he would be able to take over the program after Jackson Dart, and it was kind of ugly. 2 interceptions, or maybe 3, against Georgia State in the first game last year, and then they played Trinidad, and it was just a complete change for them, and it was awesome to see. So Simmons then gets hurt, kind of gets benched, and for the rest of the year they ride Trinidad. So Austin Simmons' revenge tour starting here in Missouri for this year, and he brings a buddy along in Caden Lee, who is awesome. I love Caden Lee at Ole Miss. Hate to see him go, but glad he's able to get paired up with Austin Simmons. But they've got one of the best running backs in the country in Ahmad Hardy. He got hurt over the offseason. I think he's got shot. He got shot over the offseason. And unfortunately for that, kind of halted his offseason progress. But luckily enough, we'll be able to play come the start of the season. So he'll be there. But also Jordan Caden Lee, Donovan Olubog will be there at receiver. They also are bringing in Caleb Goody. He's going to be a big time player for this team too. Caden Green, watch out for him on the offensive line, left tackle. He's going to have a chance to be a big time draft pick. Defensively, they are bringing back, let me count, 0 defensive starters from last year's team. But Marquise Graciel on the defensive line is a breakout candidate waiting to happen. Darius Smith on the D-line, they like a lot. Nicholas Rodriguez, big-time tackler at linebacker. Santana Banner in the secondary. But they go to the portal. Kamarion Morgan coming over from Baylor. They like him a lot. Robert Woodyard, we talked about him just a minute ago with Auburn. He's there. Kinsley Falston comes over from Auburn as well. And they get Chris Graves from Ole Miss, who probably going to be their number one corner, maybe number two behind Elijah Dotson. So Missouri is another interesting team where it's very heavy quarterback play. I think it is very dependent on obviously what Austin Simmons is going to do. Matt Zollers was the guy who took over last year at quarterback. If Simmons is bad, I wouldn't be surprised if they quickly translate to the guy who knows this team a little bit more. Last year, Missouri went 8-5. They're ranked in the top 25 to start the year. I don't really see too much out of this team. 7 wins seems fair for Missouri. We'll see. I don't know. I don't have high hopes for Missouri. I was kind of shocked. But watch for Drinkwitz. Instead of getting a new head coaching job at a higher school, watch out and see if maybe his job could be on the line if he doesn't get over the hump. We'll see. A team that was on this top 25 rankings that a lot of people are kind of down on this year are Oklahoma. And Brent Venables in year 5 now as the head coach slash defensive coordinator for Oklahoma. I think the ending of the Alabama game in the playoffs left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths heading into this year. We also got to remember that John Mateer was hurt a lot of last year. So take whatever you saw from Oklahoma in the middle of the season with a grain of salt. But I think John Mateer is a guy that you can watch in in the Heisman race. He's just that good. And they're bringing back Xavier Robinson in the backfield alongside of him. I mean, these are two guys that are potentially breakout candidates if Mateer already hasn't broke out. But the biggest problem for them is the fact that John Mateer was their number one rusher last year. Kind of a problem. So they're going to have to clean some things up in the running back department. They lose Deion Burks to the NFL, but they also return Isaiah Sategna, in the wide receiver core, but they also go into the portal, get Trell Harris from Virginia, and get dastardly enough portal addition from Texas, Parker Livingstone, who there was a whole thing about him there where he just wasn't getting enough money and they told him to go find a new home, and now he's doing it in spite of Texas, I assume. They also go and get Hayden Hansen from Florida. Don't worry about that. That's not much at all. They also get some guys on the offensive line. And Marion Harris from Arkansas is the big guy to watch out for in that transfer portal group offensively. But I think with Mateer, Trell Harris, Sategna, and Livingstone, that's enough to get you by. Sategna was a almost 1,000-yard receiver last year. Burks had about 600. So getting more talent in that wide receiver core was important. Defensively, you don't got to worry about Oklahoma defensively. They have some guys they lost. Cole Sullivan goes to Michigan, we talked about. Cole Sullivan coming in from Michigan, as we talked about. But then they lose Kobe McKenzie to Northwestern. Who else do they lose? Mason Thomas goes to the NFL. Robert Spears Jennings goes to the NFL. So getting Cole Sullivan from Michigan is big to be in the middle alongside Kip Lewis in that linebacking core. Defensive line-wise, Taylor Wine, Jaden Jackson, incredible too to be able to have there as well. Taylor Wine, watch out for him big time. I think he's going to be able to play a big role in this team. The secondary, Cortland Guillory, Peyton Bowen returning for this Sooner defense. Also bringing back Eli Bowen in the secondary, who had 2 interceptions, was tied for the most on the team last year. So Oklahoma is always going to be that defensive team under Venables. You wouldn't really be concerned about there. It's really just about kind of what the offense is going to be. Can they find a run game that doesn't involve their quarterback and potentially getting hurt? We'll see. They went 10-3 last year, 10-2 in the regular season, with that loss coming to Alabama in the college football playoff. I don't see how they can't replicate the same season with at least 9 wins. The Michigan game on the road is tough to start the year. Georgia on the road is tough. But then you got the Texas game at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. You've got at Florida, which is an interesting game. You got Ole Miss at home and A&M at home. So say you win some of those games, I could see 3 games maximum losing for this team. I don't know why many people are down on this team. Maybe they don't believe in John Mateer as much as I do or that run game, but I get the run game is a question, but the defense will play. Mateer's good enough, and I think that wide receiver core is just a little bit better than even what they were last year. So book me for Oklahoma to win at least 9 games this year. Now we're going to talk about my adopted second SEC team in the Ole Miss Rebels. And just as we talked about with the LSU Tigers, wild off season for Ole Miss. I was there for that Sugar Bowl against Georgia. Best game I've ever seen in person in my life. So following that, with a lot of the guys we talked about leaving to go to other schools, Missouri and LSU mainly, it seemed like, and then losing to Sean's dribbling, who was unbelievable for Ole Miss last year to the NFL. You now get to see what's going to go for this next era of Ole Miss under head coach Pete Golden stepping in now as the full-time head coach from defensive coordinator. But the most important part about this team, they bring back Trinidad Chambliss and they bring back Kejuan Lacey, arguably 2 of the best players, not just in the SEC, but all of college football. Very important that they're able to do that. The questions are going to be really what are they going to look like in a non-Lane Kiffin offense? Trinidad, I don't have too much of a worry about. Kejuan, I have no worries about at all in a new offense. But coming off shoulder surgery with that banged up shoulder he had all at the end of last year, we'll see what he's at now at 100%. But Trinidad, new offense, but kind of similar. Not really too concerned with him either. And it's going to be about what are the weapons around those two. Who is Trinidad going to be throwing to? Well, Deuce Alexander comes back and is going to have a bigger role now for this team. Then they bring in 2 guys from Syracuse, Jonte Cook, former 5-star, Darryl Gill, who's going to be really, really good for them as well, as Caleb Cunningham. So now you're looking at this Ole Miss offense being a little bit better each and every position you look at. They bring back 3 returning starters on the offensive line. They go and get Carius Kern from LSU, so poaching one of those guys. Mekhi Barrow on the defensive line now. Let's transition. Ole Miss's offense, not really worried about. Defensively, it's a different question we'll talk about, but they've got really good players, especially on that D-line. As I just mentioned, Mekhi Barrow coming over from Florida. Cam Franklin, Will Eccles, who I love both of them a lot, are returning on the defensive line. Suntrain Perkins as their leading tackler at linebacker, and they also bring in Luke Forelli from Cal. Whole questions around him in the Clemson situation. We'll move on from that. And they also bring in Keaton Thomas from Baylor, who has a chance to be one of the best linebackers in the SEC. In the secondary, Antonio Kite's coming back. Jalen Braxton's coming back. They're able to go into the portal and get Sharif Denson from Florida. I love Sharif Denson. I think he was awesome for us. I hate that he had to go. He's just got a smaller frame, tend to get hurt a little bit more, but I think he's going to be a big-time player for Ole Miss. And I really don't see a problem with where the defense is going to be. I know it was a big question last year, but these guys are going to be able to kind of mesh together. I think the defense this year is better than the defense they even had last year with some of the guys. That might be a hot take, but that's just my personal opinion. And then Lucas Carnero coming back as the kicker of this team. That's really all that matters. He's the best player on the team from what I was able to see. Was unbelievable in that Sugar Bowl against Georgia. I mean, what an impact player. So the real question is this defense going to be able to hold up? I think they will. Is Trinidad going to have the same year that he did last year? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. I think so. But is Pete Golden going to be the right guy for this team, or did they make the impact hire just because? They went 13-2 last year, obviously losing to Miami in the Fiesta Bowl. They were literally a play away from winning that game and being in the national championship, and I would have made a trip to Arizona. But I think this team, sure, are they going to win 13 games? Probably not, but I think they can win 9. The Louisville game's a good kickoff start. I think that's a really good game to test how you're going to be. That dastardly LSU game week 3 at Florida is going to be a tough one. At Texas sucks as well. But then you play Georgia at home. You go to Oklahoma, which is okay. But I think you can find a way to win those games with your skill positions there. And at least 9 wins for Pete Golding in year 1, proving to all those doubters that he was the right guy at the time to get. And if things go wrong, I wouldn't panic if I were Ole Miss fans, because you come out of the Lane Kiffin situation looking better than you did before. Quickly now talking about South Carolina, check out my article, top 5 head coaches in college football who are under the most pressure for this season. Shane Beamer's in there, coming off a 4-win season. Absolutely disastrous for this team. But they have the chance to kind of rebound this year with Lenore Sellers to see if he's going to come back to a new level. They bring back Matthew Fuller at running back. Christian Clark comes over from Texas. So you kind of have a two-man game going in the backfield there with Fuller and Clark. At receiver, Nick Harbor is a freak athlete, 6'5", 242, and fast as all can be. So he's a fun guy to watch. Nitro Togel coming over from Purdue as well in that wide receiver core. The offensive line gets a big-time addition, Jacarius Peak from NC State. I think he was the number 1 or number 2 offensive tackle in the portal. They bring him in. He's a very important piece. Defensively, and also offensively, they had the number 1 offensive lineman recruit in Darius Gray, who will most likely play, I assume, at some point during the season. Defensively, they have one of the best edge rushers in college football in Dylan Stewart, highly touted recruit for Shane Beamer. They also bring back J.R. Jackson at linebacker. In the secondary, Vicari Swain, Peyton Williams, and then they go out and get Caleb Herring to be able to be on that defensive line. And David Boosie is coming in that secondary as well. They also bring in a 4-star DB in Jazavian Currents, who could also play into the mix based on injuries and based on depth. But I don't really see too much for South Carolina this year. I'm not going to go into detailed about them. Obviously, if I wrote an article about Shane Beamer having the most pressure, I think that their season's not going to go as expected. They got at Bama, at Florida, Tennessee's tough, A&M's tough. At Clemson at the end of the year could be a toss-up, but then you also got Georgia. I don't see South Carolina doing much better than 4-8. Maybe they win 5, but is that going to be enough for Shane Beamer to keep his job? We'll see. I don't really think so. I know all my Vols fans have been sitting here waiting patiently for their team to get talked about, but I didn't include Josh Heupel in that top 5 coaches under the most pressure, mainly because I think he's brought sustained success, but I also believe that there's a lot of pressure on him this season. They lose some guys to the portal. They obviously lose Joey Aguilar. He's done at quarterback. Chris Brazel's coming to the NFL. Colton Hood and Jermont McCoy in the secondary also to the NFL. But they bring in guys to fill in the holes. But the biggest hole, I don't want to say hole, but the biggest question mark that they got around this team is what's happening at quarterback. Faison Brandon is the 5-star freshman coming in who is looking to take the starting job away from George McIntyre, returning redshirt freshman. And right now they're saying McIntyre has the edge, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see both of those guys pretty early, and by week 3 or 4 we are knowing who is that starter. But all reports seem to say that McIntyre is going to win that job. They got one of the best running backs in the SEC in Deshaun Bishop, who is important to this team, as well as 2 great guys and from that wide receiver group, and Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley returning for this team. The offensive line returns 3 guys up the middle, which is important as well. Radarius Jackson, by the way, let's talk about him real quick, who there's a lot of reports about Radarius Jackson being a big-time player for Tennessee this year. Now, as I mentioned with Matthews and Staley, he might not be the household name for the Vols this year, but overall, I think there's a chance that he can come in as a sophomore and make an impact. I'm not just saying that because he's a Memphis kid, but I think there's a chance that he comes in and makes an impact offensively. Defensively, they're really, really good. They brought guys back, Arian Carter, who was going to go to the NFL. All the stuff has been in the news about him with the private jet and everything, but we're going to skip all that because we're talking about football. Aaron Carter's back, who is almost going to go to the NFL. Ty Redmond is back in that secondary, probably their number 1 corner. And Idris Farouk is back in the secondary as one of their mainstays at safety. And then they go into the portal. Josh Norman coming in from Tulane on the D-line. Xavier Gilliam coming in following Jim Knowles from Penn State at the defensive coordinator over to Tennessee. That's the biggest change for the Vols, is that they've got a new defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles. Tim Banks gone, Jim Knowles in. They're going to see a lot more stability defensively for Tennessee. Amari Campbell coming over as well from Penn State. And then in the secondary, Caden Lee from Auburn's coming into the secondary, as well as Quay Moss from Kansas and TJ Metcalf from Michigan. So you're getting a lot of experience on this defense and with a good coordinator to follow it. Now, last year, Tennessee wins 8 games. You look at the schedule this year, Georgia Tech at the beginning of the season on the road is going to be a rough one. And then you've got Texas, you've got Alabama at home, which is favorable, LSU at home as well, A&M on the road, but your schedule is pretty solid. I don't see where Tennessee can't win 8 or 9 games. The whole question is going to be surrounding that quarterback situation and if there's going to be any stability there. But Deshaun Bishop should carry them enough offensively to supplement whatever quarterback play they get. Now, this team that we're about to talk about is undoubtedly, in my mind, the team that should come out of the SEC and represent them in the national championship. And if not, there's going to be some questions. Steve Sarkisian has had so much time at Texas to figure it out. And every single time he's come short, semifinals, quarterfinals, first round, doesn't matter. They've come short. They didn't make the college football playoff last year. That's a problem. But this year, there is a chance for Texas to be the team out of the SEC. We talked about the guys that have left already in other podcasts, but some of the guys that are leaving to the NFL, Anthony Hill, Trey Moore, Malik Muhammad, Michael Taffy. You lose all those guys on defense. The best part is even though you lose guys like Trey Wisner and Parker Livingstone, DeAndre Moore offensively, you bring in some of the best talent possible to replace those guys. Starting off, your mainstay at quarterback in Arch Manning. A lot of people's Heisman frontrunner and hopeful. Can he be a game changer this year? He needs to take a step up. Coming off surgery in the offseason, he's going to have to take a step up for sure. Good thing for this Texas team, they bring in incredible running backs. Raleek Brown from Arizona State, Hollywood Smothers from NC State, creates the best 1-2 tandem running back duo in the SEC potentially. We'll see. But if the guys in the wide receiver core like Ryan Wingo and Emmett Mosley V aren't good enough, how about you go and get one of the best receivers in the portal and in college football, and Cam Coleman, also getting Sterling Burkhalter from Wake as well. You just have all of the weapons offensively. 2 guys return on the offensive line, including Trevor Goosby, who's going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft at left tackle most likely. So you have all of these guys who should make your offense the most dominant, not just in the SEC, but potentially in all of college football. And then on the defensive side of things, you bring back one of the best edge rushers in college football in Colin Simmons. But you supplement him with Hiro Kanu on the D-line. You go into the portal and get Rasheem Biles at linebacker. And then in the secondary, Cade Phillips as one of your top DBs. Grayson Littleton as another one of your top DBs. Jelani McDonald as a safety. And then Bo Masco coming over from Rutgers. All of these guys should be able to play a major role in this team going into 2026, and it is very important for Arch Manning to be the guy that everyone thinks he is. Otherwise, Diabell, true freshman, is waiting in the wings to take over at any second. And I think I've had a Texas fan I've talked to say that, Sark is not under any pressure this year. But to me, Sark is under a lot of pressure. There was the rumor with the NFL gig. Who knows? If things don't go well this year, he might bounce himself. And I don't know. They got the game early against Ohio State, which is going to be a top 5 game of the season from the regular season. They've got at Tennessee, which is interesting. They've got Ole Miss and Florida at home. They go to LSU, and they go to A&M for the rivalry game. But I think that this team is so talented that they still come out of there with only 2 losses. A 10-2 season could put you as a top 5 team, or put you as a top 3 team in the country, and put you in the SEC championship easily based on how my other predictions have gone. This is the year for Texas to win it. This is the year for them to win it, in my opinion. It's Texas's to lose in the SEC, and overall they should have the best chance to win from the SEC. The team's too talented. They've got so much talent at every position that it's time. It's time for Sark to make the step up, and he's got new ears, new mouths around the program. Will Muschamp at D coordinator. You've got to be able to make the next step. And Sark's next step is making it to that college football playoff and into the national championship game, leading this incredibly talented group into it. Now we talk about their one of their other 2 big rivals in Texas A&M. And A&M, who had a big year last year under Marcel Reed, under Mike Elko with Marcel Reed. There was a lot of hope for them. 11-2, losing in that the end of the season. Were undefeated going into that Texas game. They lost, and then they lost in the first round of Miami in that snooze fest that we were all able to see and watch A&M get exposed. So, hey, this is a team that this year they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to do it again as well. Casey Concepcion goes to the NFL. Nate Borkature goes to the NFL on offense. And they bring in new guys as weapons around Marcel Reed. Reuben Owens, a great running back. Mario Craver at receiver. They bring in Isaiah Horton from Alabama. He will be a big-time player. And they also bring back Ashton Bethel-Roman, who had 5 touchdowns for the team last year and averaged 38 yards a game receiving. He's going to take another step up for this team this year. Offensive line-wise, they bring back 1 returning starter, but Tyree Adams coming over from LSU on the offensive line is going to be the guy at left tackle to pay attention to. Defensively, they lose Cassius Howell. They lose Dalen Evans to Mississippi State, Cassius Howell to the NFL. But they bring back TJ Searcy, who in a million years I would have never told you after his time at Florida that he was going to be an impact player at a college football playoff team. They bring him back. Damian Sanford at linebacker is important. Des Ricks was one of the best corners in the country as a recruit. Dalton Brooks at safety brings experience as seniors along with Marcus Ratcliffe. But then they go into the portal again. And then they get Anto Sacco on the D-line from Northwestern. CJ Mims on the D-line from UNC. Ray Coney at linebacker from Tulsa, who they have a lot of expectations for him. And then they get Ricky Gibson from Tennessee in that secondary. And not to mention, alongside of it, Brandon Arrington, the number 1 corner in the country, comes in. So you have all the depth in the secondary that you need. But really, what's it going to be for Marcel Reed? You were embarrassed at the end of the year last year offensively. Your offensive coordinator, Colin Klein, goes and takes a head coaching job. It's now Holman Wiggins that's the new offensive coordinator. How are they going to look under him? Can they take that step to be more dominant against those better defenses? And you're going to get challenged at LSU. You're going to get challenged at Bama. You've got Tennessee, who's a good defense, at Oklahoma, and then obviously a Texas game. But A&M should win 8 or 9 games. I don't think they're 11-2 like they were last year. But Marcel Reed could take over and win the Heisman this year for all I know. But 9 wins should be where A&M is aiming for this year, and to not look as embarrassed as they were last year. Finally, the last team to talk about in the SEC are the Vanderbilt Commodores, who shocked the college football world last year, being as good as they were, winning 10 games in the regular season, going 10-2. They lose important guys, including especially Diego Pavia at quarterback, who was a Heisman hopeful for them last year. Eli Stowers, super talented tight end. He's going to have a great NFL career. He's gone. But they bring back some important people. Cedric Alexander on the as their running back is going to be an important player. Junior Sherrill returns in that receiving core. But the biggest thing about this is they go and get their highest rated recruit in school history, the number 2 quarterback in the country, Jared Curtis, who is expected to start upon the beginning of the season, was committed to Georgia, flipped his commitment to Vanderbilt, and the whole offense is around if Jared Curtis can transition to college football this fast and that this easy. The reports is he's just that good. I'm waiting to see. But he's also got weapons along with Junior Sherrill around him. Cole Adams coming over from Alabama is going to be somebody to watch out for. And especially Ja'Cory Thomas from Old Dominion. I promise you, trust me, watch out for him. He's going to be a household name in the SEC. If he goes in the portal next year or not, he's going to be a household name soon. I have very high hopes for him. Defensively, Miles Capers returns on the D-line. He was awesome for them last year, brings experience. They also get Brian Allen in the transfer portal from Iowa to build that depth up. Brian Longwell is your leading tackler returning for this team. And then the secondary, Martell Height returns C.J. Hurd as a safety. And then they get in the portal Kobe Sellers from A&M, Ricardo Jones from Clemson. So now you've got some more experience, again, at all of these different positions, filling in for some of the holes that you lost. It's really a big question about what's Curtis going to do. That offensive line is questionable. Very questionable, one returning starter, but some experience on that offensive line. But it should be better than what last year's was. It's about, can they find their footing the year after Diego Pavia is gone? I don't know. They won 10 games last year. I think it's going to be hard to replicate 10 wins. I have them about 7. That seems fair for Vanderbilt, but we'll see come this year. I think Jared Curtis can take the next step for Vandy and for himself in college football. But Clark Lee had a chance to go and jump to a new job at elsewhere, and he stays put with one of the best quarterback recruits in the country and potentially puts together a really good offense once again for Vanderbilt. That'll be it for my 2026 SEC season preview. Let me know what you guys think about your teams. Reach out to me on all my social medias at Your Sports Digest, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. I'll have shorts and everything posted there. Those have been having great feedback, so please keep following there, yoursportsdigest.com for articles that'll be posted throughout the future. And yeah, we're now a week and a half away. I can officially say that for sure, a week and a half away from college football. Next week, again, we'll do a group of 5 preview, and we'll preview all the games next week. But be on the lookout for all those episodes. Share it with a friend that you know loves college football or sports in general. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Later.